Hey all, I just finished my client week and so grateful for every single moment here in the office. And it's always a pleasure to have some spaciousness, to take a moment and share with all of you why bliss. Why bliss? So when we are talking about consciousness design, the approach that encompasses the 4 dimensions of our human experience, that's the approach that I've been using with clients for the last 2 decades. And it's an experience that I live as well. It is my path as well. Why center bliss? What I will share is the experiences that we have as humans. Pain comes. Suffering is there. It's not an experience that we need to seek out. We are built to experience it. It is part of our humanity. And as I am certain everyone has experienced, it shows up at unexpected times and can be ongoing. And in light of that, when we are in our own sovereign essence and experiencing pain and suffering as the wisdom that it is, because it is wisdom to take what we learn about ourselves when we are in the midst of suffering and apply it to the refinement of our consciousness design, to move into a space of making that pain or suffering or life experience that was challenging, to integrate it and make it a part of our story in a powerful way without bypassing and validating that. For many of us, that is a significant part of our human experience. And in honoring that, then we turn to bliss. We turn to pleasure. Bliss being this ultimate euphoric, oftentimes considered spiritual experience of enlightenment, of whether that's a spiritual enlightenment, meaning it is a goal for you or a path for you to focus on your energy or your spirituality, to gain a greater understanding of the mystery of the numinous, or simply the integration of it if it's not understanding. Or enlightenment can simply be lightening your load. Enlightenment can mean that we take our human experience and we transmute it into power. We transmute it into our truth. We transmute that wisdom and those lessons from those challenging life experiences and let it become ours so that we may flow outward and serve the collective with what we've learned through example, through sharing with friends, through our sharing with our loved ones. And when it comes to bliss, we seek that out. That enlightenment is a path that we get to choose. And so it's available to us, and yet it's an understanding that we need to open to it, that we need to resonate with our pleasure or our yes energy. And I think of bliss as, again, that spiritual aspect. I conceive of it as the way we think about, and even Merriam-Webster calls, bliss is like the experience of heaven, which is a very Christian understanding, that word in particular. But across religions, what's so interesting to note is that bliss is attainable in the beyond, in a next life, beyond this human experience, beyond this consciousness experiment. And my invitation to you is to recognize that bliss is available here, that your yes energy is in fact your ordained path. We are here to move with our deepest, most resonant, creative yes energy. And that means moving with pleasure. That means feeling in our bodies, in our hearts, in our minds, that we can ordain our yes energy. We can say yes to our yes in a way that allows it to shape our consciousness, to shape our human experience. And we need to seek it out. So I am here, Krista, with some Bliss Mystic vibe, to remind you, you get to opt into your bliss. You get to say yes to your pleasure. And I mentioned religion as an outsourcing in some ways of certainly various cultures, in the sense that bliss is only attainable in the beyond. It's challenging to recognize that when we are in our bliss and pleasure, we are incredibly powerful as human beings. When we're moving in our yes energy, we can feel invincible. We can feel like we can create anything. Everything in this human experience has been created by someone's yes energy. Someone said, hey, wouldn't it be wild if we had a way to fly? Wouldn't it be wild if we had a way to write down these stories into symbols to pass along to anyone who comes beyond us? What I offer is that came from someone's yes energy. Your yes energy is your creative life force. It's your birthright. And for many of us, cultures in which we exist have held our bliss and our pleasure back from us. I call that the pleasure rationing culture. And if you notice, I'm here in the States, in the United States. And so the Western culture of the capitalist, colonial, patriarchal energies, the systems that are there to co-opt our pleasure and our bliss and our yes energy on behalf of productivity, on behalf of serving those systems. And this is where the Bliss Mystic vibe is counterculture. This is where there's a lot of rebellious archetypal energy here, because we are ordaining ourselves. We are sovereign. We are in our true power when we claim that yes energy for our creation, for our enjoyment on our timeline. And what I offer is countercultural. Think about the concept of vacation time, when it's appropriate to go have a good time. Think about the energy of when you should enjoy yourself versus when you have to put your nose to the grindstone or put your shoulder to it on behalf of productivity. And it is internalized. It is deep within us to ration our pleasure to our detriment. And so my invitation to you is to recognize for yourself, why bliss? Why is it important to you and your sovereignty to have space for pleasure in your life, to create from your yes, not from your should? And recognize that enlightenment on a spiritual level certainly is a powerful concept. And from a consciousness design perspective, when we are in flow, joy, bliss, happiness, ease, by as much of our design as we can make happen, that doesn't mean life is going to be perfect. That means that in the moment, we maximize our pleasure. We pleasure stack. We take pleasure upon pleasure upon pleasure when we can. And that can look like having your favorite tea in your favorite mug while you are looking out at a glorious sky, while you are handling perhaps something that is challenging or painful or feels like suffering. So all of this is happening in simultaneity. That suffering, that pain is part of our human experience that we don't need to fear, especially when we allow ourselves to focus our light on our bliss and our pleasure and say yes to our yes in a way that only we can decide to do. So we are extracting these cultural constructs of pleasure rationing and saying yes to our yes on behalf of self. And when we flow inward, pleasure is power. Pleasure makes us feel like we are moving energy to create. Pleasure makes us feel buoyant and light and joyous. And from that place, that power, we can move and transmute into inspired action for the collective. So as within, so without, as above, so below, those ancient laws that share with us that our energy is a part of the whole. So when we elevate our energy of our consciousness for us, we are doing it for all. And our bliss elevates the collective in a way that only we can say yes to. Only we can say yes to our yes. One great example of this is when you move through the world and you're feeling this, you're feeling pleasure, you're feeling bliss, you're sharing a smile, or you're helping someone out at the grocery store with their groceries. You feel generous, you feel connected, you feel part of the whole. You want to contribute. It's not trivial. It's not optional. Your bliss is your birthright. My invitation to you is to notice that feedback loop. When you feel lighter, when you feel creative, is it connected to your pleasure? Is it connected to that feeling of bliss and enlightenment, feeling lighter? Is it? And how is it? And then notice what's working. Double down on what's working. And then continue to notice that feedback loop. Remember that this is the opposite of selfish when we're doing this with a pure heart. Your bliss is a powerful medicine for our collective, for you, for your family, for your partner, for your neighbors, for your community, which is extraordinarily necessary in transformational times. So notice that feedback loop. Opt in to saying yes to your yes. Allow your pleasure to be power. Notice when it makes you feel aversive to even the word pleasure, to even not really conceiving of the concept of bliss. That's not a deficit on your part. That is a cultural construct meant to keep us disconnected from our creative power, from our buoyant bliss to move with inspired action on behalf of the enlightenment of the collective. My invitation to you is to simply hold that in your consciousness, be the experiment, stay curious with no judgment, guilt, or shame. Simply notice and invite more pleasure and bliss into your consciousness design every chance you get. Remember, it's for your evolution and for the revolution. Thanks for spending time with me. Reach out if I may be of service and share any perspectives on your curiosities. I am here when you're ready.